Monday. Lily thought as she woke to her mother's voice. Get up, sweetie, the field trip is today. She did not need to be reminded, the field trip was the only thing on Lily's mind for the past month. Her school had organized a field trip to the sea for 7 days. It would be the longest time she was away from her parents, and the thought brought her so much joy. Lily's excitement was only matched by her fear. Her parents had reassured her that if she brought her floaties and stayed close to her teacher, nothing bad would happen, though she tried to argue that the teacher would not save her if a shark or whale came to eat her. For some reason her parents did not seem to take this concern seriously. Lily had spent the whole of dinner worrying about the whales. That was when she realized. Of course the sharks and whales won't get me, they will eat each other. This thought relaxed her enough to enjoy her dad's cooking and think about the fun she will have with her friends. As she thought of her next 7 days, she felt her sheets get ripped off her. Time to get up, I don't have time for this today. Her mom had turned on the lights and walked out of the room. Lily stretched her upper body and then her lower body, yawning in the process. She looked to the corner of the room where her best friend slept next to the bear she had gotten for her 6th birthday. Wake up, Jasmine, she said to the fairy sleeping on the bear in her usual spot. The fairy flew up with such speed Lily could not follow her. She went around Lily, and when she turned the fairy was gone. You'll miss breakfast. Breakfast, she thought as the smell of eggs and hot dogs filled the room. She ran into the living room where a plate was waiting for her. It was less food than she was used to. Her dad sat in his usual spot, watching the morning news. Morning, Dad, she went up and kissed her father. He did not react, he seemed to be worried about something. She sat on the couch and started eating her breakfast. Just then her mom walked in putting on her long earrings, and she seemed to be getting ready for work. Mom, I want more, Lily yelled as she held up the half-empty plate for her mother to see. No, sweetie, you should not overeat. You know how you get motion sick when you ride in a car. Will, today, you are going to be in a bus with all your friends for 6 hours and you don't want to have an accident. But don't worry, I packed you something to eat, it's mostly bread, so it should help your stomach. She smiled. Don't worry, you won't be hungry. Okay, but you didn't make a plate for Jasmine, she needs to eat too, you know? Her mother and father exchanged a look. Jasmine? I thought your friend's name was Cinderella. No, Mom, Lily said, making a face to imply that her mom should have known such an obvious fact. She was Cinderella last week. Oh. Is that so? Did her name change after we watched Aladdin? Her mom asked as she started packing her briefcase. Lily gave a wide, toothy smile. Yup, she loudly exclaimed. You know you shouldn't feed into that shit, it's not good. A voice came from the hallway, and a large, bald-headed man walked into the living room. It was her Uncle David, a man whose large figure was only overshadowed by his massive belly. He was her favorite uncle, he would give her gifts and let her ride on the front of his truck, which her dad hated, but as her uncle said, he's younger, so he has to do what I say. Lily wished she had a brother she could order around like David did her dad. Hey David, Lily said with a mouth full of morning eggs and a smile. Lily, her father yelled, almost too loud for whatever crime Lily had committed. She jerked her head to the right to look at her father. His voice seemed to bounce off the walls, and a deafening silence ensued. His eyes were full of anger, and his jaw was clenched. You don't call adults by their first names, he yelled again. I'm sorry. Her uncle had always told her to call him David, and he would get annoyed with her if she called him uncle. She felt stuck between two rocks, not knowing which adult to listen to. She looked down at her plate and felt her eyes start to water. She was no longer hungry, in fact, the feeling in her stomach made her feel like she would never eat again. Asshole, don't yell at her, her mother shouted and looked at Lily. Don't worry, sweetie. Her mother got on one knee and wiped the tears that had without permission started flowing from Lily's eyes. Uncle David wants you to call him by his first name, so you should, she said, shooting a glance at her husband, who was back to watching TV. It's not disrespectful if the adult tells you they want to be called that. Oh, now you want to teach her about disrespect, how fitting, her father said, not taking his eyes off the TV. Her mother was about to say something, but she was cut off by the words, just go to work, if that's what you want to call it. Her mother had taken her purse and briefcase and stormed out the door, making sure to slam the door on her way out. Lily, not knowing what to do, looked for Jasmine in the room, but she couldn't find her. Then she felt a hand on her shoulder and looked up to see David. "Common, go get dressed, we have to hurry." "You don't want to be late," he said with a genuine smile that made Lily feel better. She put away her plate and walked to her room. David had come in as well to help her get dressed and carry her suitcase out the house. Lily went back to the living room once she was ready and looked at her dad, who did not seem to move from his spot, looking almost like a statue meant to represent some kind of figure of sadness. "Dad. We have to go, I'll be late." Her dad looked at her for the first time and his eyes showed sadness. "No, my love, Uncle will take you, Daddy's drunk."